Welcome into this episode of Coach's Corner. Jordan Woodruff with you. Glad to have you along. Got Coach Scott Harmon with football with us today. In this episode brought to you by the Rusty Barrel Supper Club. Coach, you and I, we need to go get a steak after this.
Oh, I'd love a
You,
good
you,
steak.
you paying or I paying?
I'll pay this time. I'll pay this time.
Yeah, I definitely got to go. So, oh man, but I want to get right to it. And I think the first thing to talk about with this week is the heat. You guys have had to adjust practice schedules because we've had some of the hottest days the Oklahoma heat index has had this time of year. Week 0, you kind of get into a little bit of that. We've had that stuff before, but you guys moving practice around, and then there's people in the state that are moving some games back because of the heat. We've seen softball and stuff this week move stuff back. So the heat is kind of the priority. The guys got to be conditioned well.
Player safety is essential these days, so we're going to err on the side of caution always with that. We've moved some practice around. We actually kind of canceled one. It was a Monday practice, so it was a light deal, and we're still lifting twice a week doing our maintenance stuff during the year. So we found some things to do. We'll film them up and do those things, but we have had to move our practices to early in the morning. We're not in school yet. Most people are in school, so adjusting right now hadn't been as hard as it would have, say, if we were already started in school and had to try to come back in the evenings.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? I think about to my father back when I was playing ball in Lightning, and they take us off the field, and he's like, "Hey, we played through the Lightning." Well, we didn't know better right back in his day, and that goes back to, and then the same way with the heat. I mean, heat illness can cause more problems than anything, and we have this deal where we're tougher back in our day, and maybe we were. I mean, at least I'm going to say I was, right? That's what I'm going to tell my kid. But we are thinking about player safety, so this is one of those things that this extreme heat can be a really big problem for these outdoor sports. So once again, a lot of people get upset, but most of the coaches, most of the administration, they understand because they want to make sure these kids are safe first and foremost.
Right. I used to be a principal, and you know how sometimes the administrators could catch a rap about letting that tie kind of choke off the oxygen to the brain sometimes a little bit, but that's what we're going to do here. We're going to err on the side of caution, and we're going to do everything possible to make sure that your kids are safe, because that's what I would want done with my own kids. So, even if we have to sacrifice a little bit of prep time out on the field, we'll try to make up for it in other areas until we get these facilities built. We've got an indoor facility coming that'll kind of cure all those things. So this is probably the last year you'll probably really have to deal with this kind of situation where we won't have something where we can easily slide over to the indoor and accommodate what we need to get done.
All right. Want to go back to last Friday, a scrimmage at Bartlesville. Anytime Bartlesville is on the docket, it doesn't matter if it's a scrimmage, doesn't matter if it's a horseshoe tournament, doesn't matter, it's going to get competitive. And it got competitive over there once again. You guys had a heck of a day, and needless to say, with travel issues, but you got over there. What did you learn about your team as far as what you think you can do good, and also what do you need to get better at?
We're going to have to tackle a little bit better defensively. Last year we were so spoiled with all those older kids. These kids that's really their first competition against non-Ponca City people, in their entire, varsity career this year. I mean, a lot of them didn't play at all last year. Some of them are at new spots and stuff. So we knew it was going to kind of be a feeling out period. And then the transportation issues that we kind of ran into really kind of just threw it all a monkey wrench into the whole night. So I was proud of our kids and our staff for how they adjusted. We always talk about adapt and overcome, and you can't if you can't control it, don't worry about it. So some things there that happened that we couldn't control, we did. What we could control was our effort on the field. I felt that our effort was good. There's lots of stuff for us to clean up, but tackling, gap responsibility, defensively wise, not allowing the big play. I think we gave up 2 big plays, and then offensively, we're going to talk about ball security, and then we kept it pretty vanilla. We didn't want to show some of our stuff, so we'll see. We'll have a better idea coming out of game 1 than we really did coming out of the last week. It was hard to evaluate those kids after 4 hours on the bus.
Yeah, and it was hot over there too. Right. So and there was no air flow.
No,
it was not windy at all. So which is unusual in that part of the state. Coach, you talk about defensively, and you talk about tackling, gap responsibility. This defense, you got some guys over there. Hudson, X, they come to mind. Those are guys that you can anchor around the secondary and on the line. But, you got a lot of pups, I feel like, over there. And there may be guys that are juniors, but they didn't get the brunt of snaps. So there's going to be a lot of learning on the defensive side of the ball as we go along these first three non-district games.
Oh yeah, Rolo and staff does a great job there, tweaking stuff and moving kids around. We're kind of see where kids can do what they do really well, what they do kind of well. We'll end up trying to put the best 11 we got out there. To be honest with you, that's kind of our philosophy. But then to have some subs. So we're looking at everything right now. I mean, we compete daily for spots. We really didn't get a great evaluation last week, to be totally honest with you. So we're going to keep improving this week and try to get into our normal game mode. That's been thrown off with the heat already, but we're creatures of habit in the football locker room over there. We like to get on our schedule and stay in our schedule. So last week, getting set back, and this week with the heat illness and all that being a big concern, it has just really kind of thrown a monkey wrench into our plan. So what we're looking for our kids, for our older kids, is to do is just kind of hang in there and see how this goes early in the year, and then we'll, as a staff, we'll adjust and have them ready to go by district time.
Defensively, like I said, maybe a lot of learning with some new faces. Offensively, though, there's a lot of guys back. I mean, there are going to be new places you plug in, but I want to start with the offensive line. I think, Coach, it's a representation of where you guys are at, too, because, I mean, I told you when we were over at Bartlesville, you look out there, the weight program, you're starting to see the conditioning and the weights really pay off. It looks like a 6A football team that's out there. And I can't always say that I've been able to say that covering Ponca in the past. This is an offensive line that you feel really good about. They've worked hard, and they got a chance. We talk about the high flyers with Gavin Cunningham, Brody back there at running back, and, of course, Tay at quarterback. But it kind of all starts with that offensive line.
Where I'm a firm believer in it. This group would have really, in my opinion, would have thrived in my kind of style of offense. Because they're kind of road graders. We believe they're in great shape. They have toned their bodies up. They were in every day this summer at 7 doing extra work, and so feel like. And I need to mention Coach Steve McHenry. Steve McHenry moved from the defensive line over to the offensive line. It's not an easy transition, but Coach Mack made it look pretty easy. He really impressed me with the depth of knowledge he had on the offensive line. He and Coach Green kind of worked together this summer to kind of mesh that group up. And then we also need to throw in, the tight ends. Old Cooper Rich does a pretty good job. And H.D. LeClaire was an H-back in there. And now we're moving him around to kind of utilize him in some different areas too. So that's a good group of kids. And then they've really worked hard to establish themselves as kind of the hard-working crew of the team.
You bring up tight end Cooper. I mean, Ponca City, the offense is a little bit more high flying than maybe what it has been in the past, but still the tight end's got to block a lot. And Cooper, I mean, he was big to begin with, but I look out there now and he's even bigger. Mm-hmm. And I think he's worked on his hands. I mean, there's times you're going to have a drop ball. That's just part of life. But he's made some catches I've seen in practice the few times I've been there, and even in the scrimmage, where he's made some catches maybe he wouldn't make a year ago.
He's really adjusted well. You know what I mean? It's a big adjustment coming. We know. I mean, my son made the same adjustment coming from Class A. He was actually coming from smaller 8-man football. When he got here, he was, dominant in where he was at. And now when you go up to this level, it takes a little while to adjust. He had a great summer. He had a phenomenal summer, to be honest with you. Kind of toned his body up a lot, worked on his speed, his hands a lot better. I told him the other day, we got to find a way to give him a rest every now and then. He said, I don't want to come off the field. I said, I understand that, but hey, we got to figure out a way just to get you a little bit of breather, whatever way it is. So I was glad to hear him say he didn't want to come off the field, but those are the little things that we're still trying to tweak right now as we get into the opener.
All right, look ahead to this week in Guthrie. And Coach, when you come to week 0, it sneaks up on you so fast. You're always more concerned, I think, with you than anybody else. And with Guthrie, you may know who's coming back. You've watched some film from their scrimmage, but it's really on a week 0 like this. What Guthrie's going to bring to the table, because they bring it to the table every year with what they are. So, I mean, I don't really imagine you guys are going in scouting as deep as maybe you will when you get into district play, because you know what they're going to bring to the table. and you're just trying to get your guys set up for this grind that will be this season.
Right. We took a good look at it. We do the same prep pretty much every week. To be honest with you, we just don't have a lot to work off of because we exchanged one scrimmage in their last scrimmage or their only scrimmage that they've had. They didn't even start their quarterback or their tailback. That is their natural starters. So we have to go back and watch film from the previous year and try to, see how we'll or what they'll try to do. So it's kind of a guessing game early. Rolo does such a good job with in-game adjustments that we put a lot of trust in him, and I'm sure by halftime he'll have it somewhat figured out, and we'll go in there and tweak it a little bit.
Well, and I just love it because it's really I think Ponca and Guthrie are blue-collar type schools, and they're schools that are going to hit you in the mouth. And, I mean, it's made for some pretty good ball games in the past as well. I know that you haven't come out on the right side of that as much as probably you wanted to, naturally. But we've had some good competition, and it's been a good non-district game because it's really helped you guys get prepared for what's to come, being able to have a team that's going to hit you in the mouth like that.
Well, right. We were upset with them a little bit. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago when we finally got them. We had finally beat them. I think they had beat us like 13 or 14 straight times, and we finally beat them. And the next year they dropped us. So
you're doing something right when that happens, Coach.
So we got them back. Hey, we got them back on the schedule. We want to keep them. I like Coach Beebe over there. You're right. He does a great job with those kids that are going to be physical. They're just a typical Guthrie team. They're going to be physical, athletic, and well coached.
Yeah, I was going to say there's probably some people in the district after you guys made playoffs last year that are ready to get away from you, right? I mean, that's a testament, Coach. I think when you're doing things right, that you want to play, get you guys ready, but when somebody doesn't want to play you, they're thinking I can go get a win somewhere else a little easier, right?
Well, when I first got here, it was easy to get a non-district game. It's not quite as easy as it used to
be. Which has its own challenges,
yeah.
Especially. But the week zero's opened that up a little bit. And I know ideally we've talked about you don't necessarily like playing on week zero, but to get the good competition, it's kind of the necessity.
It was a necessity for us. If we couldn't make a week 3 work for anybody that just wasn't a juggernaut, Bigsby, Carl Albert, some of those guys, those are some teams that you just really don't want to jump onto if you don't, unless you just have to in non-district. So we were glad to get a 0-week game with these guys. I know we'll use that. We'll utilize that in the future as well because we kind of like the bye week before district play.
Yep. All right. Well, Coach, we'll see you down there Friday. Let's go get a win. I mean, last year, Team 6-6. I know you want that winning record, and it all came to the non-district. And you got those same opponents coming up this year. And I know you would like to look up, and you got Deer Creek start district, I think, as well. So it's kind of one of those you'd like to look up and have a couple, if not all 4, start 4-0 instead of 0-4, where you guys finally got through it last year, changing everything. But you're a little bit better shape, because that offense is already in place now.
Well, yeah, we'll win different. It'll be a different style. We'll win ball games differently. Like we said last week, we may win 35-34 instead of 13-7 like we generally do here in Ponca City. So it'll be different. We'll adjust, but it'll be exciting down there. We hope we have a good crowd, and I anticipate a really good opening ball game between these two teams.
I'm hoping for it, and hoping we get the W.
Yes, I do too.
All right, Coach, appreciate the time. That's Coach Scott Harmon with football. That is going to do it for today's Coach's Corner. It's been brought to you by the Rusty Barrel Supper Club. Check them out, of course, for lunch and for dinner. You're not going to find any better place to eat here in Ponca City. But that'll do it. Jordan Woodruff saying so long for this episode of Coach's Corner. Until next time, go Cats.